From Olympic glory to doping disgrace, the world of track and field has been rocked by scandals time and again. You'd be shocked to know which Olympic champions and world record holders were caught using performance-enhancing drugs during their careers, tarnishing not just their reputations, but also their achievements and the sport. First up is Sun Yang. The Chinese swimmer was involved in the most well-known instance of trimetazidine use in sports doping. After testing positive for the stimulant in 2014, Sun was given a 3-month suspension. But get this, China's anti-doping authorities hid all this from the public until the ban ended. Clearly, he didn't learn a lesson, because it happened again in 2018. The 3-time Olympic champion reportedly asked a member of his entourage to crush the casing of a blood vial. Yup, with an actual hammer in order to render it unusable for testing in 2018. He was also refusing to allow anti-doping inspectors to leave his house with a sample of his blood. That's not shady at all, huh? Everyone knew what was going on, and the world did too when his results came in. His plans to defend his Olympic championship in the 200-meter freestyle were dashed when he was prohibited from competing at the Olympics in Tokyo. Yang was also handed a 4-year ban, and last we heard, the 3-time Olympic champion lost his final appeal against a ban for violating anti-doping rules in March 2022. Now, there was a lot of controversy surrounding women's track in the London 2012 Olympics. With 5 disqualifications, the women's 1500-meter final from the London 2012 Olympics was the most controversial ever. Özlek Alptekin and Gamze Bulut, Turkey's first gold and silver medalists, were both disqualified for doping. After 3 separate instances of drug offenses, Alptekin was given a lifetime ban. Then, Tatiana Tomashova, the silver medalist from Russia, had a 2-year doping ban from 2008 to 2010 for tampering with drug samples. Natalia Kariva, who finished in 7th place, and Yekaterina Kostetskaya, who finished in 9th place, were later disqualified from the 2012 results after being found guilty of doping too. And even though authorities haven't taken away Tomashova's gold, there's been a lot of discussion on her performance at the London Olympics. It's happened many times in the past too. These people never learn, eh? It's hard to imagine how many athletes got away with PEDs back when doping techniques weren't sophisticated enough. Marita Koch of East Germany set a world record in the women's 400-meter final at the 1982 European Championships, winning gold in 48.16 seconds. Then, Jarmila Kratochvílová of the Czech Republic took 2nd in 48.85 seconds, setting a national record. By the way, only 2 competitors have beaten Koch's performance at the European Championships since 1982, Sawaid Nasser of Bahrain and Kratochvílová herself. But any other East German athletes' accomplishments, including Koch's, have raised questions about whether they were made possible by drugs. A study claims that from 1981 to 1984, Koch did use an anabolic steroid. This substance was illegal at the time and is still prohibited now, yet it was undetectable back then. Well, Kratochvílová has been outspoken about her innocence, of course. This reminds me of a more recent case with Nadezhda Sergieva. The Russian bobsledder failed the test for the prohibited substance trimetazidine, and as a result was disqualified from the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics. Head of Russia's Federal Medical Biological Agency claimed his organization attempted to prevent Sergieva from competing due to a cardiac problem, but officials from the sports ministry allowed her to travel. Turns out Sergieva's mother, who was a doctor, had given her the unlicensed medication containing the prohibited substance. Mom claimed it was irresponsible on her part, but her daughter still got an 8th-month suspension. Now, remember Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson, a Canadian sprinter, was implicated in the most well-known doping controversy in Olympic history. It really damaged one of the best competitions of the Summer Games, the 100-meter dash. Johnson appeared to have won the event in the Seoul Games in a world record time, but his gold medal was taken away after he tested positive for an anabolic steroid. Carl Lewis, a rival American, received it instead. Oh, wait till I tell you about him. Anyway, the International Olympic Committee's president declared the sanctions imposed on Johnson and others demonstrated they had won against doping. He spoke too soon. Still, Johnson's disqualification sparked a nationwide scandal in Canada and led to stricter drug testing measures in the sport. These scandals have had people's career destroyed. Regina Jacobs, a former middle-distance runner, competed for the United States in 3 straight Summer Olympics starting in 1988 in Seoul, South Korea. But her career came to an end in shame in 2003 after a positive test for performance-enhancing substances. Yup, she got a 4-year suspension and never came back. Oh, and how can I forget forget about this guy. As part of the relay squad, Tim Montgomery took home 2 Olympic medals for the US, a gold in Sydney and a silver in Atlanta. Then in September 2002, he also bagged the 100-meter dash world record. Glorious, right? Wrong. It was soon revealed that he was part of this massive performance-enhancing drug scandal, which he admitted to using. Montgomery had his medals and world records scrapped in less time than it took him to reach the finish line. But guess what? He learned nothing. Montgomery began engaging in check fraud, money laundering, and heroin distribution when he retired from track and field, leading him to prison. Now for Carl Lewis. The American track and field athlete was a fierce competitor and one of the greatest athletes of all time, but he too was caught using PEDs during his career. In 1988, Lewis tested positive for banned stimulants at the Olympic trials, but he was cleared to compete at the games after claiming that the substances were in his cold medication. He didn't have to give back his medals because this information was made public after his career was over. Still, it'll always be hampered by the negative connotations associated with PED use. Not to forget, Lewis also gave a truly terrible performance of the national anthem once. Now, some athletes get to come back, but it's never the same. Like with Justin Gatlin. The American sprinter had a controversial career marred by doping allegations. Gatlin had tested positive for banned substances twice during his career, first in 2001 and then again in 2006. He was given an 8-year ban after his second positive test, but it was later reduced to 4 years on appeal. He then returned to competition and won multiple medals, but his reputation remained tarnished by his past doping offenses. The American came back in 2010, but lost in the 2011 World Championship semifinals. Once after, in the 100 and 200 meters, he came in second to Usain Bolt, but Gatlin won another global championship when he defeated Bolt and Christian Coleman in his final solo 100-meter race at the 2017 championships. And guess what? The crowd booed him when he won. Plus, he was unable to defend his championship the next year. Now, for the darling of sprint, Marion Jones, the American sprinter and long jumper, was one of the most loved female athletes of her time. Her career came crashing down when she admitted to using steroids during the peak of her career. She was stripped of her medals and banned from competition in 2007 after admitting to using steroids to boost her performance. It's sad because she had achieved a feat that had never been accomplished before by finishing with 3 golds and 2 bronzes. Yet once she admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs, it was all over. Later, she served time in prison for lying under oath over an inquiry into her involvement in a check fraud and money laundering. Ugh, the fall from grace. That's all for the dirtiest athletes in track and field history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.